In the midst of a busy residential neighborhood in the heart of Manoa Valley lies one of Hawaii's cultural treasures. Here, Kūka'o'o, surrounded by its garden of native plants, watches over the valley, an ancient living sentinel from a rich and remarkable past. Behind the heiau stands the historic home, Kuali'i, reflecting a gracious era and a dynamic family legacy. Today, the Manoa Heritage Center is dedicated to preserving and sharing this exceptional historic property, as well as documenting the colorful history of Manoa Valley.
The Manoa Heritage Center is really the gift and vision of Sam and Mary Cooke.
If we had not done this, I'm very sure the house would be torn down and the land would be subdivided, and that would be the end of it.
You lose some of the historic fabric when houses are torn down and two come up in its place.
Something like this in hundreds and hundreds of years in the future will be vibrant, a special part of Manoa, a special part of Honolulu.
I'd like to inspire people to just get all excited about Manoa history.
The word Manoa can be translated to mean broad or vast. This meaning is usually applied to the valley's geological attributes, but it also speaks to the broad and vast history that the valley enfolds. Hawaiians inhabited Manoa Valley sometime after 1400 as a natural extension of the coastal settlement of Waikiki.
When Vancouver came here, he came into the valley. This was way back in the 1790s. He came into Manoa Valley and saw that it was cultivated in taro, yams, and sugarcane, and it was sort of the garden spot of the whole island.
At the Manoa Heritage Center, Kūka'o'o is a striking reminder of bygone days.
The name Kūka'o'o means ku of the upright Hawaiian digging stick, the o'o, which was a stick that was used in agricultural pursuits. Because of this heiau being located in the center of extensive agricultural plantings of taro ponds and lo'is, this heiau is being interpreted as an agricultural heiau that would have been used by the community here in this upper area of the valley, and it was one of many heiau that existed at one time in this valley. Maybe there were about 14 of them at one time. This is the last one that is intact and standing here in Manoa.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Manoa became an attractive suburb of growing Honolulu, and the valley transitioned from a place of agriculture to the densely populated residential neighborhood we know today. At the beginning of this transition, Charles Montague Cooke Jr., or Monty as he was fondly called, settled in Manoa with his new wife, Lila Lefferts Cooke.
My grandfather was given this property by his father as a wedding present. He built the house in 1911 after studying in England, and he wanted a Tudor type house, so that's what he got. It was designed by Emery and Webb, who were the architects, and they were also the architects for the Hawaii Theater.
When the architects suggested a location for the house, they suggested that they put it where the heiau is.
But because of his aloha and love for the traditions of Hawaii, he set his house back and let the heiau continue to exist.
Monty's ardent respect for Hawaiian culture was fostered by the remarkable woman who saved his life.
When he was born, he was premature. They say he was 2.5 pounds. They put him in a little shoebox.
Western medicines could not save him, and so my great-grandfather sent to Kona for āina. She was a kahuna lapa'au, and she came here as a young girl and wrapped him in Hawaiian leaves and massaged coconut oil and kukui oil and saved his life, and he took care of her for the rest of his life.
She really created a great sense of aloha in him. He never would have done anything to harm that heiau.
Monty and Lila named their home Kuali'i after the famous Oahu chief. Today, it is remarkable to find the rock walls of Kuali'i standing side by side with the walls of Kūka'o'o.
Sam spent a lot of his time here with his grandparents. I think he had a great deal of love for them. We couldn't bear the thought of this house becoming a church or a consulate or being torn down. So we bought the house from Sam's father and moved in 1970.
It was just really intriguing and mysterious and fun for kids. Mom was very vigilant. I remember slamming a door and breaking a glass door. And I spent many an hour picking up mangoes on the hill to repay my mother for the glass door I'd broken.
The rest of Monty and Lila Cooke's homestead was parceled out to other heirs. Eventually, Kuka O'Oheo fell into the hands of a housing developer.
I think the idea was to tear the heiau down and build a home. So I purchased the heiau at that particular time out of self-preservation. Then we got to thinking that now we own a heiau, why not restore it?
In 1993, with the help of Nathan Napoka, Sam and Mary began the process of heiau restoration.
In the heiau were at least 7 brasaya or rubber trees that just completely covered it up. You couldn't see that there was anything there.
They hired Hawaiian stonemason Billy Fields and his crew of dedicated workers to bring Kuka'o'o back to life.
And the amazing thing about the site is that at the completion of the project, no stones were brought into the project and no stones were left over. The most important thing that the Cookes have done by preserving the heiau is that they've kept a tangible connection to the Hawaiian past of this valley. So if people come back here and they want to connect to that period of time and that group of people, the Hawaiian people, they can come here and still feel a sense of connection to this place. If you look at Manoa today, many other ethnicities came to the valley after the Hawaiians, and Hawaiians are almost non-existent. So by doing what they have done here, there will be an indelible Hawaiian footprint in this valley in perpetuity.
Today, both the historic home and the heiau are on the National Register of Historic Places and remain invaluable educational resources. A relatively new but equally valuable feature of the Manoa Heritage Center is its native Hawaiian garden, started by Sam and Mary Cooke in 1994.
In those days, there were no native plant nurseries. The Lion Arboretum was a great help to us. The National Tropical Botanical Garden on Kauai sent us a lot of plants. We wanted to bring an endangered species from Kauai, and we had to get a special permit from the state for the monorodendron.
There's so many plants that are unique and endangered and so well established that I think that's what sets it apart from any other native Hawaiian landscape I've seen here on Oahu, at least. Because this is kind of a new concept of using native Hawaiian plants in landscapes.
What we have to teach about the preservation and perpetuation of our native plants is really important.
You're also reestablishing a habitat that was once lost.
Mary in particular has incredible vision. You just are amazed at the things she sees coming that need to be dealt with.
In 1996, Sam and Mary Cooke formed the Manoa Heritage Center in order to preserve, protect, and share this extraordinary island place. Tours of the heiau and gardens are currently offered for both school and community groups.
They can see how old the walls are. They can relate to the sacred nature of the heiau.
Well, it is very much a multicultural experience, very representative of the people of Hawaii.
It's like stepping back in time, especially with the heiau that they restored back here. Come on, this place is unbeatable.
Future plans include an exhibit, the expansion of the Native Hawaiian Garden, and a new visitor center. In time, Kuali'i will become a historic home museum.
The coexistence of the house and its history and the heiau and its history and the gardens and plants, I think it's very rich and will continue to grow to be more so with the various collections, you know, as the house becomes open to the public and the book collections and art and antique collections are documented and there for community enjoyment and use.
By Sam and Mary doing this, where people can see it and appreciate it and understand the importance, they're going to continue raising the awareness of the criticality of this to Hawaii. By preserving these things, the people of Oahu, the people of Manoa Valley, will always be able to come back to a home that they recognize.
The Manoa Heritage Center serves as a kahu, a caretaker to an irreplaceable part of island history. Through the commitment of two special individuals, Sam and Mary Cooke, this historic property will continue to be a place where people can step back in time and experience a part of Hawaii's rich and unique past. A past that continues to touch the present and shape our future.